Hi.
So return to fighting, obviously. It's been a little while. It's June last year. I think we saw you, was it?
Yeah, last year. June? I was supposed to fight October, but yeah, June.
What happened in October?
My opponent came in heavy.
Fair enough. Okay, because I thought I saw you more recently than June, so I was kind of like,
Yeah.
I'll work it out. So ahead of this fight, how are preparations? I know it's a bit of a cliche question, but how's the camp going? How is everything as you lead into fight night?
It's going really good. We had a little bit of change of like how we did at camp. We decided that we were going to focus more on individual aspects of, training. We went to a specific Muay Thai gym. We did jiu-jitsu at a certain gym, and then we did MMA kind of out of our garage, just to kind of stay safe and to also just really focus on what we needed instead of what like a whole team needs. And that's kind of what we were finding at other gyms, that it was something like it was more focused on a team as a whole instead of individuals.
What has that done for you, studying that? Like you said, you went to a Muay Thai gym to study the specifics of different aspects. What has that done for you, as opposed to just trying to train it all generally at once?
I think it's really opened our eyes to as far as like the lack of specific skills we have. I mean, when you go to a straight Muay Thai gym, you're doing straight Muay Thai, and you can really find holes a lot easier than if you're just dabbling in it here and there throughout the week, because you're doing so many other things at one training practice. So I feel like with going and stepping into a Muay Thai gym and strictly doing Muay Thai, you're finding the holes a lot easier and you're picking up things a lot easier than if you're mixing in, 15 minutes of striking with your jiu-jitsu, with wrestling, and everything kind of blended together. So I feel like we've been able to grow a lot quicker than we would in a normal setting.
That said, is it a bit of a challenge to transition if you study just Muay Thai and then you go to a wrestling class, or you go to a straight boxing class or a kickboxing class? Is there a bit of a challenge in transitioning, like if you're in your Muay Thai stance versus boxing or whatever?
No, I don't think that the transition's hard. It's just switching that mindset, like, I have to grapple the whole class. I can't stand up. I can't, mix in, my striking with my takedowns. It's like I'm just doing wrestling. I'm just doing jiu-jitsu, and then I'm just doing, striking. And then on days that we do MMA, I feel like everything kind of flows together a lot smoother than it did in the past.
Do you enjoy it more?
I think training how we're training now is more enjoyable than it has been. It started to become more of a job, having to show up at the gym at certain times, and that's when you got your training in. With this, how we're training, and we kind of got to build our own schedule a little bit more, and have a little bit more free time when we needed free time, and train when we wanted to train, instead of being on a strict schedule because everyone was on that schedule. It's more tailored to our needs as fighters, and also with having a family and everything like that.
When you look at this fight, what are the biggest risks you face going into this one?
I think the biggest risk that I face is just the pressure that JJ holds. I tend to be a little bit more of a counter puncher and counter striker, so I feel like just making sure that I'm moving forward as well, as much as she is. But other than that, I feel like we're pretty much equal everywhere it goes.
Congratulations for the fight. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
Cortney, do you come into these fight weeks now? I mean, what happened with your last fight? What happened with Jakar? Like, do you come in with a little trepidation in the back of your head, like, oh God, like, what's going to happen this time?
Definitely, but we tried to get the variable that was in both of our corners. We kind of were like, yo, you can't come. We just got the bad juju out. So we put him to the side. But other than that, I feel like everything's good. We both came into both camps ready. It just, everything happens for a reason. And, Jakar got a great fight afterwards. And then again, I got a good fight with JJ. So, we can only just look at the bright side and hope for the best this week.
Yeah, I guess that's the only mentality you can have. I mean, is there some challenges to getting there too? Being like, I don't know if this is actually going to happen until I step in that cage on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that anything can happen. It's a fight game, and then at the same time, we're dealing with COVID. So, really, you just kind of got to take every day, day by day.
And you talked a little bit about JJ there and her pressure and everything. What do you think is the best kind of response to a pressure fighter like that? How do you kind of prevent them, obviously, without giving away too much of your game plan?
You hit them.
Yeah.
you hit them when they come forward.
Yeah, and do you feel like this fight, I mean, obviously there been varying results over the past couple of years. Do you feel like there's something that's maybe clicked going into this fight where it can start some momentum for you here?
Yeah, I think just, again, with like the training, like the specific training that I felt like that I needed, and just going in there and getting the job done. I feel like the puzzle pieces that we had were a lot bigger that we needed to put in place, and I think over the, 15 months, and this past 6 months, I feel like those pieces have gotten smaller. So I definitely feel like we're going to be able to complete the puzzle come Saturday.
Do you think when people maybe look at your record, there's maybe a misrepresentation? Because so many of those fights, short notice, the replacement, all these things, like you're the person there for multiple years, where if we need someone to step in, Cortney's the one we call. Do you think that's kind of overlooked to an aspect of how some of your fights have gone?
I think to the general population of people, yeah, but to the true MMA fans and the people behind the scenes, and especially the matchmakers and also my camp and stuff, I think they realize, all those fights were close. Like I never really went into those fights like, oh, we're just gonna go in there and just fight. We always went in with a mindset that we can definitely win, and some of those fights could have gone either way, and it just didn't happen. So, for me, I think the surrounding people in my close community, as long as they're okay with the outcome, I'm okay as well. I really don't care what other people think. I'm here to do my job, and my job's to fight. And if that means I got to take a fight on 2 weeks' notice, then I take a fight on 2 weeks' notice.
So safe to say that's the attitude you intend on carrying through the remainder of your career? Do you think as you move along, you might have to be more selective in your decision making when it comes to things like that?
I like to think if you scratch the UFC's back, they scratch yours. Again, like I said, our contracts are in fights. If you're turning down fights, then they might not come again. So for me, I was lucky enough to, each fight that I got was a big name. And like I said, I showed well in all those fights. I've only been finished once in the UFC, and this is going on my 13th fight. So, I mean, I feel like I fare well with anyone in the division, 115 or 125, and, possibly 135 if that comes along as well.
Interesting. So you might consider jumping up another division?
We'll see. I like to fight, so if it means taking a fight at 35, I'll take a fight at 35.
Awesome. Thank you, Cortney.
Speaking of the specific training, is that looking to fix a hole within yourself, or is it partially catered to who the upcoming opponent is as well?
Both. It's definitely both. With every fight, you can go back and look at film, but they can change as well. So for me, the main focus is making sure that I'm fixing my holes. But at the same time, if you're going against a striker, you're probably going to want to, focus a little bit more on your striking. But everyone, is a striker, and then at the end of the day, when they end up fighting me, they turn into some kind of world-class wrestler. But yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm the best fighter that I can be, and I feel like with the specific training, that's the best way to do it.
Do you have somebody that's sort of coordinating the overall, that we're going to work on this right now, we're going to work on this? Is there a head coach, or who's coordinates the overall specific training and when you do it? Or is that yourself and how you kind of feel?
Yeah, we definitely decided that we're going to take over our camps as fighters. Obviously, we have head coaches and head training partners, I guess you can say, and I feel like that's really the biggest bonus to how we're training, is making sure that your training partners kind of have a say in what you're doing, because they're the ones in there working with you. They can feel your holes, they can feel your gaps, and they're like, hey, you're a little bit weak here, like I constantly getting this kind of takedown, I'm constantly getting this combo off on you, you're not checking leg kicks and things like that. Instead of an outsider looking in saying what you need to do, for us, it's been more beneficial to have someone who's actually in there training with you saying, this is what I'm catching you with, we need to work on this.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, I think here's another case where the odds makers, for some reason, want to put you as the underdog. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you've been the underdog for a lot of fights where it doesn't seem like you should be the underdog. But does this, in one odds site that I've checked, of course, they have you as the underdog again. Does that sort of stuff fire you up? Do you even pay attention to it? I mean, does it anything? I
didn't even know that I was the underdog. But I mean, I guess I'm the underdog again. It is what it is. I can't really change it. Can't change the odds makers. I just got to go in there and do my job.
It never sort of gives you a fired up where you're like, I'm gonna go make some people lose some money or maybe make some friends some money?
I'm always looking to make my friends money. I don't care if people lose money. I'm just making sure my friends win some money.
And speaking of that, looking at the fight night, what sort of things really need to fall in line to make sure that you get your arm raised at the end of the night?
I mean, for me, it's just going out there and doing what I do best. Sometimes I kind of stray away from that, and I think with the corners that I have and the camps that I've had these past 2 camps, even though the last one didn't go through, I feel like I'm finding myself again and happy training and happy going out there and just being who I am and pushing the pace and making things a little bit ugly in there, and just kind of implementing my own will on these girls.
What was the piece that finally made you happy again going in there and getting the training? What was it?
That it was my choice on when I got to train. Sometimes you don't feel like waking up at 10 o'clock, or you don't feel like going at 3 or 2 or 1. It's being able to make your own schedule. We call it the Mayweather schedule, the Mayweather training camp. We were lucky enough to have a great sponsor with Zebra Mats and being able to mat out our gym and being able to train whenever we want. I'm lucky to have a partner that also trains in fights in the UFC. So being able to just say, hey, we're going to sleep in, we don't feel like training today, or hey, like I'd rather go get a workout in at 7 than at 3. Are you okay with that? And I think that's the best way to do it, is just be happy when you're training.
Best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you.